Salam alaikum. Today they're forecasting a brutal storm covering, half of America, primarily as usual, the East Coast. I grew up there and I remember the snowstorms, trudging home from school with my mittens frozen on my little frostbitten hands, turning blue. I have no fond memories. Yes, I ice skated. Yes, I tobogganed. Yes, I did fun things, hating every minute of it because I was freezing. Uh, so many people would go to the mountains to ski. My family, not me. I tried it once. I'm just getting shivers thinking about what's going to happen because we have the weather forecast and it's usually correct. So they're all bracing for it. And they claim that it could be up to 2 feet of snow. You know how much snow that is? You can't open your car doors or your doors of your homes. So I just thought I would take this opportunity to tell you about weather in Islam. When I was a new Muslim and when I was first in Egypt, there was, talk of our weather forecasts allowed. Is it forbidden? There's all of this stuff that when you're a new Muslim, people tell you things and they're usually not correct. Is it forbidden to have weather? Is it forbidden to become a weather forecaster, etc.? And now we've ended up where they're claiming, enemies feed the clouds and enemy forces control the weather. No, only Allah controls the weather. So I'm going to take this opportunity right now, today, to talk about the weather. So I'm going to use my phone because I don't really own any books in English anymore. And I'm not savvy enough to do split screens and whatever. I open my laptop, I can't be bothered. No, I am bothered for you to do this, and I can see this. So let's begin with as much as I was able to access quickly about the weather, and then give you detailed examples from the Quran. We never want to lose sight of what we're here for, the words of Allah. In Islam, Allah controls the weather through his divine will and direct command, acting as the ultimate designer of the natural interconnected systems of wind, clouds, and rain. The Quran describes this process as sending winds to stir clouds, spreading them, forming them into heaps, and causing rain to fall precisely where he wills. Weather is a manifestation of Allah's power and mercy, bringing life to dead land and acting as a sign of his existence. The process of rain. Allah controls the stages of precipitation. Winds. He sends the winds that carry the clouds. Clouds. He gathers the clouds together to form thick, heavy masses. Rain and hail. Of course, in the frozen area where I come from, we would include snow and ice. He brings rain down from these clouds, including hail. Hail, if you don't know what it is, it's balls of frozen ice, and it falls down and can hurt you like little pebbles. What an adventure it was growing up in the Northeast of America. Targeted provision. He directs rain precisely to whom he wills of his servants. Now, you may ask yourself, right here, what's wrong with Sudan? What's wrong with vast areas in Africa? Well, they worship idols made of stone and wood, and they believe in all sorts of evil magic. And let me stick to the point. I know what you're wondering as I'm reading this. You're asking yourself the same questions that I did when I first became a new Muslim. Well, if Allah provides rain and it's a sustenance to grow vegetation and it's a good thing, and why doesn't it ever rain in Egypt? Oh, well, you have the Nile. That's a substitute for you. There's just so much. If you just observe what's around you of natural wonders, you have to ponder, you have to reflect, you have to believe in just one power, one almighty power, who called himself Allah, not God. He's not God. He's not Jehovah. He's not Yeshua. He is Allah, and Allah is Akbar. When we say Allahu Akbar, it means greater than anything. Angels and nature. The angel Michael, or Michael in English, is assigned to manage natural elements, including rain and vegetation, under Allah's command. Purpose. Weather patterns are not random, but serve as tests of faith, blessings of sustenance, or warnings, reflecting divine wisdom. I'm not a clairvoyant. I have no understanding or wish to even try to delve into the unseen, because that's Allah's purview. However, we are constantly struck with natural disasters. Do we reflect on the natural disasters? When I was a new Muslim 40 odd years ago, I was at a group, and I mentioned, because I used to read the Quran in English, about how Allah is constantly using things like tornadoes and floods and hurricanes and fires to punish. And one of the older women there, so let's say I was 40, she was probably 80, and she got very upset with me. And she said, "No, you're wrong. Allah does not punish through these things. He shows his signs. And often you will beg for mercy. And it's to scare you, but you cannot assume that it's punishment." Well, now I can tell you, yes, you can. Not always, but sometimes. So as we sit here and plan to do whatever we're going to do to Iran, I think I mentioned my last lesson. Allah can cause it not to work. They'll push their button and it won't work. And in the meanwhile, he might send you Frozen. You know that Disney film, Frozen, which I never saw it, but I have a niece, and all the songs and the beautiful clothes. But there was also a film a few years ago wherein the entire country froze over. It was a wonderful film. I don't remember the name of it, but you should watch it. It was very scary, and it's not impossible. Allah says, be and it is, kun fayakun, and we'll all be frozen. Do you want to know more about the prayers that Muslims say during different types of weather, such as rain or strong winds? And then, of course, it will give you the choice, show more. And if you would like, I can read you the prayers, or I can read you parts of the Quran right now. In chapter 30, verse 24, Allah sends the rain. There's scientific reasons for rain. Satellites do forecasts ahead. Do satellites know in advance what Allah is thinking? This is the site called Quora, where people give their opinions, and you can find varied opinions about this. I'm looking for something. There's so much here that's scientific and so forth. But I want to get the more, Allah has sent down rain. Well, that ought to be enough for you. Just that. Allah has sent down rain. Yes, Allah has sent down rain and snow and winds and so many other different forms of, you might call it natural disasters or just natural occurrences. Do you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to go off in a different tangent because, I connect things all the time. So if we're worrying about snow is very, it's as disturbing as rain because it's so heavy. And then it blocks traffic. Almost immediately, if you have a good snowstorm, the roads are like almost impassable. And then they have to bring out all the heavy equipment to remove the snow. and then it freezes, and so it's even almost impossible to remove, and every family has to spend money to plow out their driveways, etc. So it's really it's a disturbing, immediate sign of the power of the weather. And you may have nuclear weapons, and what do they call them? Ballistic missiles, nuclear weapons. Oh, let's talk about the battleships on the ocean right now, off the coast, literally 100 miles from where I live, in the Caribbean, waiting, ready, willing, and able to get the command to move out. Now, some people say, why do you live in Florida? That place is cursed. Which is worse, California, New York, or Florida? One of the reasons that many people condemn Florida, I don't want to mention the Supreme Commander, because in Islam we're not supposed to speak against the ruler. Did you know that? You can give your opinion. It's not that I'm not muzzled, not muzzled. However, you shouldn't degrade, defame, derile the ruler. Oh, well, you can do all that regarding what he does, but did you see it with your eyes? Anyone who puts any credence in any form of media, now you're only bringing tension on yourself, anxiety, because in Islam we're taught to not even discuss what our eyes have not seen or our ears have not heard, because we're supposed to be certain, and the only certainty are the words of Allah in the Quran. Oh, but wait, my eyes see babies with no arms and legs and starving people. That's not real? Yes, that's real. And do you know what Allah says in the Quran? It's what your hands have sent forth, and He forgives much, and He overlooks much. So because we're not living over there, and don't trust the media, we better not trust the media. You have to be very careful. And right now I'm thinking about this now. I am down in South Florida. Last night the winds were brutal. And a couple of days ago, I could barely walk in the parking lot of a supermarket. The winds were so strong. And I looked at my friend and I said, do you think a hurricane's coming? Because she was, born and raised here. And I've lived through 3 hurricanes. It's nothing you really want to experience. You can watch it on TV. Because, well, one I lived through up north when I was a young girl. I was about 11. There was a hurricane, and a tree crashed on my dad's car, and my mom was in labor, and he couldn't take her to the hospital because he had the tree fall on the roof of his car in the driveway. That's another story. But you know that natural disasters, even if there's something as little as a tree on your car or a landslide, look what happened to the girl in the snow yesterday. She was in an avalanche. She was on a beautiful family vacation skiing in Utah with her family. And she was buried under the snow and died. So the snow is definitely, I think, a message that Allah is choosing right about now for us in America. Oftentimes when I was in Egypt, I would hear criticisms that you get so many punishments over there in America. We don't get those things here in Egypt. This land is very peaceful. We don't have all of these floods and, all the natural disasters. They really don't. It's true. And they say it's because of Islam and having the adhan called from the masajid they call it the minarets. It's called the muaddin. It's called loudly 5 times a day. It's not in America. It's barely called within the masjids because there's hatred for Islam. Do we know why there's hatred for Islam? Could it be our new allies? I say that sarcastically. Those who have always hated it and who will continue to hate it until the great smackdown comes. Those are not Allah's words in the Quran. He doesn't call it the great smackdown. He says, Hatta yati Allahu bi amri, until Allah's command comes. And in another place, he said he will bring down upon them shame and humiliation until the end of time. Those are they who know well, distort, refuse, deny, and keep others from the path. You know, last night I discovered so late, and I couldn't finish it, a great sheikh here in New Jersey. He's Egyptian, from Egypt, but born here, I think, or, came when he was in college, probably. His name is Dr. Shadi Al-Masri. And he has begun, for Ramadan, a series called Prophets and Devils. I listened to the first one, and I was so intrigued because he's actually doing a timeline of the Banu Israel, the sons of Israel, who were chosen. Let's not forget, they were. And they did fight in Allah's path for hundreds of years, maybe. You'll have to listen. I have to figure out a way to transfer a YouTube video that I recommend to you on this lesson. Oh, that's technology, though, when I just feel so incapable. Allah has put it in my heart to hate it. I don't know why. I can use YouTube for listening to good videos, but something about it, I feel we're being taken over. We're going to be robots soon, and we deserve to be because we've lost humanity. So I started off by weather, and then I made a comparison about the weather in the Northeast, especially of America, and in America in general. And then I brought you some current up-to-date tragedies about, it wasn't just her, that little girl, I think 11 years old, buried under the snow, died in Utah. No, there was something a few days before that of an avalanche killing many. I think it was 11 or 12 people who were skiing. And it's just hitting me about this snowstorm coming, and my being from that absolute epicenter of it, the Northeast of America, was always where you would get the worst. I don't know about Canada. I never really followed up with Canada much, but they're on the border. And they're also, I say, cursed with this kind of weather. There's nothing fun about it, and you can't even ski unless you're rich. So the only thing good about it was, for some wealthy people, they would take ski trips, they were called, and pay a fortune and ski for the weekend. My brothers and my older son love it, and that's why my older son lives up in the mountain. But I can't help but remind him that Noah's son ran to the mountaintop and felt he would be safe. And Noah was calling him to believe in Allah, and he wouldn't. And he even scoffed at his father, the prophet Noah, and said, "Don't worry about me, I'm good. I'm up here on this mountain." And of course, you know what happened to him. He was drowned in the flood that he thought the high place could protect him from. Now, it's almost 20 minutes. I will end here. I hope you enjoyed this change. I usually do the same thing, reading Quran, translating Quran, and that's my favorite thing. But this particular point in time, it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're bracing for it because they all know it's coming. they've already announced the school closures, and we used to love. There was sometimes when school would be closed for 2 weeks in a row because people couldn't move about because of the snow. So the children are happy, and they're going to build snowmen. Probably don't know what that is, but we'd build snowmen, and we'd put a carrot for his nose, and I used to say 2 pieces of coal for his eyes, and we'd put your dad's tie on his neck. He would be like a big ball or 2 big balls, and then a smaller ball for his head. Did I like building snowmen? No. Did I do it? Yes, culture. You had to go out and build a snowman, and you would freeze. And sometimes I would just look at that snowman and say, yeah, so you pile a bunch of snow. I'm going back and reading one of my books in my room and closing the door. And maybe I'll just find myself on an island in Tahiti. See, I lived in fantasy for most of my life. And I think all of that is what led me to studying the world and different cultures and the history. And I think I'll do another lesson on a new book I just discovered. Yes, that's what I'll do, because I just feel like I don't want to say I'm out of sorts right now, because Allah controls the universe. He controls the earth and skies. He controls the sun and the moon and the stars. And he literally controls the winds that sweep everything in one direction or another. Let's all pray. Let's all pray for world peace, because that's what we really need, especially Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.